Welcome to the class of the SLW-616, Karibu sana. And this is the law and economics class, and we dealt last class the many other aspects of the economic efficiency in various aspects. But if you happen to see that we have the law and economics of the obligations also, let me show you the syllabus so that you could understand where we are dealing. See, here we'll see that concept of subject of law of the economics that we did it, and economics of the property law, and the economics of law of obligations, and here which I highlighted. When you say the economics of law of obligations, there will come across both the tort law as well as the contract law, how it will be dealt. So now, without wasting the time, let me go to the law and economics of obligations are concerned. Participants, are you hearing me? Say yes. Excuse me. While various liabilities, rule of tort law provide the efficient incentives to invest, breach remedies of the contract law are claimed to be distortive. Since, at least in Germany, obligation law provides a general rule for both the contractual and tort relationship, such a discrepancy seems puzzling. When you say the obligations, we can cover both the things are there. Law and economics with the contract and law and economics with the tort. Means economic theory towards the breach of law, how the damages are awarded. And if it is the violation of the tort law, negligence is there, how the damages are awarded. And what is the economic efficiency would be there in the awarding damages. And hence we could study the both of them. The paper identifies a saddle point property as a driving force behind the most efficient results, and it establishes that the fault rules of the general type generate this property. So the model is then confronted with the important legal rules of the general law of the obligations. Why general law of obligations? Any obligations, we can follow it, through which we can resolve the economic efficiency and awarding the damages, either both in the tort or in the contract. The alleged inefficiency of the expectation of the damages turns out to rest not on a failure of the breach of remedies, but on the binary nature of the delivery choices as imposed by the traditional analysis of the contract law. So naturally that we will see that if a person who comes to the court and the person should not go with the empty hands, and hence the maximum amount of the damages should be awarded, that the court will think and apply a particular theory or concept or correcting factors and modes and equations, and see that the victim will be compensated fully. That is the aspect of it, which I want to make it out. So if you study in the torts lectures, we have the many other forms that we understood, but just I don't know whether how much a portion that I covered in this one, economic torts of lecture. But when you see the torts, it recognizes can negatively affect a person or the property through either negligence or the intent. And the tort law also provides a framework for dealing with the negligent or intentional act done against a person's business or livelihood. So indeed, if there are not in place, a malicious actor could satisfy themselves with destroying an individual financially whilst leaving their person and property untouched. If anyone property by the action of the negligence is damaged, and we will follow the particular equation to see that how the damages will be restored. In the tort law that we will see that as if the damage is not happened to him, restored back to the original position of a party. That is the thing. In roughly that I can make it out, because I will check with my earlier classes how in the inducing for the breach of a contract and how the damages are awarded. Let me check it. And cases also we made, Lumley versus Guy here. In tort requirement malice, and if the malice is there, and how The damages are awarded by following the economic efficiency theories. Then the case law also be there here. Let me check again how far that we covered earlier. Depending upon that factor, then we will proceed. Now, I will just scrolling it to see how the tort law will make it out, the economic efficiency by following the some decided cases here. So here damages, how it can be required, and what are the defenses a person could have to take it out. So these are the things where we can come across it. Then if any person is unlawfully gained it, and how it can be reimbursed, that is the reason that we can say no one can be enriched himself at the cost of the others. Participants, intention to harm, what is the intention would be there, and the particular case law. Here I am scrolling merely to see that how far that I covered in this aspect. And unlawful means if any person gains, and the violence would be there, then how it can be made. If there is a fraud and misrepresentation is there, then how the cases should be there. So some suggestions also given for the non-violent activities, and the defenses like conspiracy is there, like the Rook versus Bernard, the one of the leading case law. Conspiracy to the injury is there, and Queen versus Latham, that is a decided case law that will make it out, and see that how far that we make it, and the tort as well as the contract, this area. But now I throw light on one aspect in this class today, that is the, yes, this, let me open the file for that one. How in contract the efficiency will come out. The law of contract economics and the contract are concerned. See, it is a big book is there, the law and economics of contract. How the law and economics of contract together will go. And here we cannot read all the things because we want to know certain point of view. Like the introduction, we can see the economic motive for the contract, the law and economics issues in contracting, and what this chapter is not, and organization of the chapter. Of course, when you want to go in the depth, there is the freedom of contract is there, and how the contract will be formed, and the interpretation of the contractor if the contractual obligations will not be fulfilled or incomplete, and enforcement of the contract, how it comes. So these are the various chapters are there, but this book I would like to post to you in your email so that you could have an idea how it can make it out. But let me just today class we will concentrate on the law and economics of contract. Participant, is it visible? Can I magnify it? Is it visible? Can I magnify it? Excuse me. I want to see where it's magnification. Okay. Either this thing, yeah. Excuse me. Oh, this has come down. Let me check it once. Yeah. And the introduction that the courtesy goes to the Harmelin and Kaj and Crosswell and who wrote this book. The essence of the free market economy is the ability to private parties to enter into the voluntary agreement that govern the economic exchange between them. Why we will make a fair competition in the market? A free market economy is the ability of the private parties. A private party will enter into the market value, in the market, and the products are good and affordable and easily reached, and production will be there, and the cost of it is less, then definitely they will monopolize the market. So, such a free marketing where the private parties will be entered into the voluntary agreements that govern the economic exchange between them. Either exchange is how much the rate. Rate will be fixed, either the barter system or the sales system or the commission system or the weight, whatever it may be there. The cash transactions will be there. Consequently, the law and governs such an agreement is a critical to the functioning of such economics. So here, nobody would buy the things at the cost of high rate when the same material is available at the lower cost. So while the law of the property determines the configuration of the entitlement that from the basis of the production and exchange, if the production is more, the cost is less. If the production is less, the cost is more. It is a universal principle. If the consumption is more, the cost is high. If the consumption is less, the cost is low. And exchange also. And the law of torts protects those entitlement from the involuntary encroachment and expropriation. So, in the business, a tort law will definitely enter into it. If it is a contract, then the breach of contract law will enter into it. Hence, we can say that it is both the contract and the tort will intertwine together and to see the economic efficiency of getting the damages and following the certain formula will be implemented and formed and used and applied by the judges. It is a contract law that sets the rule for the exchanging the individual claims to entitlement and thus determines the extent to which the society is able to enjoy the gains from the trade. So if your trade is there, merchandise is there, business is there, any other transaction, it is nothing but a contract transaction where the property will be sold and the property is the mobile property or the immobile property. But generally the commodity which you are supplying from one country to another country is a mobile property. Am I right? Participants, are you hearing me? Please try to participate it. So accordingly, economists interested in the welfare properties of the specific institutions in particular or the micro foundation of the exchange generally have a good reason to take the account of the law of contract. And hence, we have to study the law of contract because in the free market, a private party will enter into it and mercantile with the economic interest. Accordingly, the economist, the interest is there, the welfare properties of the specific institutions, of course, regulating bodies are there in particular, are the micro foundation of the exchange generally in the world, WTO will take care of it, have a good reason to take account of the law of contract. So, law of contract is anywhere in the world, general principles are the same. Only the specific contracts may vary. So, this chapter accordingly surveys the main issues arising the economic analysis of the contract law. How the economic analysis should be there in the contract law when awarding the damages, when there is a breach of a contract is concerned, and we discuss both the main features of the contract law as they relate to the problem of economic exchange, how the transaction should be taken place, and how the damages are awarded, and how relevant legal rules and institutions can be analyzed from an economic perspective. So in all aspects, we can see that how much the benefit will be there, and what is the perspective of the economic perspective is prevailing over there. Then what is the use of getting the justice of the 30 years where economic perspective is very much less? And the same justice, if it is done within the low time, then naturally he will be more benefited. So that's why we say, if justice delayed is justice denied. Are you following me? Participants, in this introductory section, we set out the basic scope and methodology and organization of this discussion to follow. A method will be followed over there, and the subsection is there. Discuss the why formal and informal contract exist. Either formal and informal contracts, so the oral contracts also there, but all contracts which will be in the form of the black and white, and it avoid the vexation of the party if any party made the breach of contract. And what economic function they serve. And subsection 1.2 distinguishable between the positive and normative issues in such economic analysis of the contract law, and discuss some methodological problems and how associated with applying the standards economic analysis to legal institutions and when emerging with the legal scholarships. So the divisions are there 1.2, 1.3, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and here the 1.3 identifies the limits on the chapter scope and the provisions and provide the bibliographical recommendations, means further reading for the material we don't cover and select. So Further reading, if you want to improve yourself and get the knowledge in the particular aspect of it, yes, we can go through the further reading books. And 1.4 here sets out the organization of the remainder of the chapter. How a chapter could be made, that will be given in the 1.2, 1.2, 1.3 and 1.4. Okay, let us see that there is a caveat in order to the outset. Although it is a conventional to present the contract law as a discrete field, one should understand that to a significant extent, the operation of the rules and institution described below will depend on the other aspects of the law. So, whenever a product will be sold over there, naturally you have to define the product and its validity and what is the consideration to it and how much you can supply it and what is the stipulation of time, whether limitation is there or not of the time factor, and terms and conditions will be there. If any case the breach of contract comes over there, and which country law would be applied and which is the jurisdiction and where the case will be filed. So this will also be very much clear. Otherwise, we will make it following the private international law concepts and rules also, if it is not clearly mentioned by the parties, including the field of tort or the bankruptcy or procedure and other evidences. Lawyers have a clique that describe the interdependence, that they say the law is a seamless web. Yes, it is a seamless web. It is useful to keep in mind that many issues that economists would regard as a contractual, including some important limits on contractual freedoms. So when a contract would be there are contractual freedoms are there. But every freedom having its own exception, a rule and boundary. So no freedom is an absolute freedom. Is it clear? Participants say yes. So here it is useful to keep in mind that many issues that economists should regard a contractual, including some important limits or contractual freedoms, are governed not by the contract, by the tort law. Suppose if something will not covered by the contract law, yes, it will be covered by the tort law because the negligence element has appeared over there. Additionally, the rules relating to certain categories of the exchange, and such as consumer or employment or insurance or an information licensing contract, have developed a specialized content to the point that they are often treated as a distinct legal fields. So these are all distinct legal fields should be there where because of the globalization and liberalization, now the world is like a hamlet. Not omelette, hamlet, Hamlet. Finally, the practical ability to contracting parties. What is the practical ability to contracting parties here? So to assert their legal entitlement of the depends importantly on the procedural rules that govern the courts and other enforcement institutions. Not only the procedural rules, even a substantial law which should be followed over there also be clearly mentioned. If it is not mentioned over there, then private and international law will interfere in that matter if it is the matter is between the two countries. Many of the specific features of the contract law that we discuss below cannot be understood except as a response to the cost and their limitation and such institutions. So here we will see that what is the cost benefit, what is the limitation would be there, and without limitation, if it is given over there, naturally that it will not be benefited. So whenever the court will decide the compensation, yes, it will be paid in the form of installment, yes, but the interest will be added to it till the total installment or total due is paid, which is stipulated, prescribed and ascertained by the court. That means even the court will say the installment, but they will maintain the interest also, so that the person who is going to get it will not lose it. In case if he has given the total at a time, yes, he need not to pay in the installment, he can give it and need not to pay for the interest also. Now it is the choice is given to the party either to pay in the lump sum at a time or without paying the interest, or paying the installment with the paying the interest which is stipulated by the court. Of course, court will for the normally the market interest either 7%, 6%, but not the exorbitant like the 12%, as far my knowledge goes. So here they say the seller buy insurance company and don't buy insurance company, the equation they made it, and these are mathematical calculations. With that, also we can easily come to a conclusion that in economic efficiency would be there. So the economic motive for the contract, how it can be made. So a motive is very important factor, then how it can be done. So here a neoclassical exchange of the economic thought analyzed by the Walras 1874 are Arrow Debrew, the Arrow Debrew. Of course, they are the authors, they have made such an analysis. And there is a little need for the contracts or contract law, since buyer and seller are exploit all gains from the trade through spot transactions. So it is the party, those who are making the contract. It's the will and wish of the party. Either do or die, or make contract or leave the contract. Indeed, in spot markets such as the public bazaars, the parties manage reasonably well without formal contracting. So contracting becomes worthwhile when there is a temporal element into their exchange, or one party, or at least is unsure as to what her counterparty will do. For example, when the item to be exchanged needs to be produced or services being rendered takes time. So in the exchange is concerned, either a product should be exchanged or services should be exchanged, because the exchange is in terms of the product, in terms of the services also. Absent a contract, the parties could be reluctant to trust each other to complete the agreed upon the exchange and the called upon time, and there's valuable exchange in the foregone. So whenever such a point would be there, it's more better that you should put it in writing, all the terms and conditions, and signed by the parties with the witnesses, so that that can be a relevant document to produce in the court as evidence. Conversely, contracts can be worthwhile, even non-exchange settings, and even an advance commitment enhances the value of a gift by enabling the reliance by the beneficiaries, either in the gift or exchange or sale or mortgage or lease. In any manner, there are some certain terms and conditions where the contract plays an important role. When a supplier's commitment to remain as a market, notwithstanding short-term losses, deters the competitive entry by rivals. So now, it is the party, those who are involved in the contract, they will measure it, that whether to make the contract or not with the other party. If the other party is having the high bottom line, naturally we will dissent it, or we don't agree it, and we'll keep quiet. Or if it is possible or necessity would be there, yes, they will agree to their terms and conditions, those who are bottom line is high. And at the time we can say standard form of contract, which will come across in the law of insurance or in the banking also, when you take the loans. The central question then becomes why commitment is valuable, to which there are several answers. So there are many methods would be there, many permutation combinations are there, where a person wants to make a contract with the other party regarding the merchandise is concerned, or the sale is concerned, or exchange is concerned, or gift is concerned. So these are the things which should be studied or made in the introduction. So now let us know what is the coordination between the parties should be there. The most straightforward reason to use the contract is to coordinate independent action in the situations of multiple equilibrium. Of course, there are terms and conditions are there when the two or more than two parties are also be there in the contract, and at the time they will see what are the equation to be there, the equilibrium to be there. As an illustration, consider the game depicted in the figure 1, in which a buyer B and a seller S are independently deciding whether to purchase the insurance against the loss of the good or transact. So here it is given the buyer and seller, this, the A and B, either to buy or not to buy the insurance. So it will be given the chance to them to select it, unless until they do have the knowledge of how much the total value, how much the premium he has to pay, and these are all the things will be measured. So here, whether it is a good to buy or loss or not, we have to decide it. The parties payoff set of this discretion is normalized to 0. So denote the insurance premium when purchased by party I by PI and the expected loss suffered by the party, that is I, though no insurance is purchased by LI, and I assume that LB and LS and greater than PB and greater than PS, that is going to uninsured more expensive than the buying the insurance. The one point is very much clear is that it is more advisable to buy the insurance. The reason is otherwise you will be on the roads. And the insurance company will come to the rescue of a person. Because predictability and probability and foreseeability, one cannot see it. Any unpredicted incident may happen. At the time, the person will be on the roads if he did not buy the insurance. So, buying the insurance, it is cheaper for the seller to buy the insurance or than the buyer to do so. This is perhaps because the seller who packages the goods for the shipment is better able to control moral hazards and thus can be obtained the better rate. Now the question comes over there. For instance, if a new car you have purchased, four-wheeler, and you go for the comprehensive insurance, that means total insurance. Means there is no zero depreciation will be there. Either the party who injured will get it, the opposite party who is either with the fault, without the fault also will get it, and the persons those who are traveling as a passengers in the car, they also get it, and the car also get it. So all the parties, including the passengers and the car which is damaged, will be covered in the comprehensive insurance because it's a new car. But when the car comes to old, but generally people go for the third party insurance. At that instance, the premium would be the less, and people will not go for the fast also, moreover, and they take a lot of precaution because they do have the good experience of the driving by that time when the car becomes old because years added. Am I right? See, when you buy a car at the time, naturally you will take care more. Daily you will wash it. Daily you will clean it. After some times, no, you clean only once in a week. But when a matter comes to the driving is concerned, and you will become more expert and more careful when you are driving the car because you got a lot of experience will be there by driving daily. And that experience will enrich you to how to drive it also in a safe way. So if the parties make their choices independently, there are three Nash, that is the equilibrium to this game. One in which the seller buys insurance and in which the buyer buys insurance, and mixed strategy equilibrium in which both they buy insurance with the positive probability of these. The first equilibrium is that efficient one and is also more efficient than any disequilibrium outcome. So now the question comes is how the equilibrium comes. It depends upon the situation, the cost of the buying of the insurance also. A contract to play this efficient equilibrium would serve to ensure this outcome as achieved. So a man with the wise definitely will make the game in a positive manner and see that he will be benefited by buying the insurance. Now come to the formal contracts are of course not the only way of the parties to coordinate among the multiple equilibria. In any case, they see that equilibria is the multiple, but the most of the cases, then the high bottom line would be there, it is of the insurance company only. The efficiency of the seller-buyer equilibrium could make it a focal point of the parties. So either the seller or the buyer, when they becomes understanding would be there, or they will come on one platform, then only you can say the equilibrium is there and the contract they can accept it. So the literature on the cheap talk, of course they say what is the cheap talk? Okay, we'll make it out, continue it. So the cheap talk that is made suggests that such a coordination can, in principle, also be achieved by having the parties to announce their intention in advance. If any party wants to make it out, yes, let them inform their intention in advance so that other party will give the chance whether to play the game or not to play the game, whether to buy it or not to buy it, or whether to forward it or not to forward it, or go forward or not. So in actual institutional settings, however, contracts offer more stability than focal points or mere announcements. And here the parties have given a choice either to do or not to do, either accept or not to accept, or go further or not to go further. Parties, are you hearing me? Can anyone can unmute and read what I highlighted on the screen so that at least I will give the explanation to you. Participants, nobody is speaking. I think Matadizo. In particular, they provide a permanent authoritative record that can be used by parties who suffer from the imperfect recall, or by those who need to delegate the performance to their agents or the successors. Suppose somebody would be there, no, they will give a person who is well versed in the law, well versed in the economic efficiency theories, and they will make a deal in making agreement with the other parties. Note that when contracts are used for the pure coordination purposes, they are self-enforcing in the sense that is in the each party's private interest or ex posto comply with the chosen equilibrium. So, unless until the party will not become the equilibrium, they will not be a contract at all. Because when you want to the equilibrium, they are in the same plane. If they are in other axis and another person in another plane and there is no equilibrium, and the contract will not be formed. Hence, those designing such a contracts can devote most of their attention to problems of formation and interpretation and activity, little attention to the problem of enforcement. See, either the contract, you can make it out. What is the use of the contract if there is no economic efficiency is there? A person make a contract with the other person to get some benefit of it. That is the business, the secret. The business one should do it because to get some profit, not at the loss of it. So this coordination function of the contracts has been rather less discussed in the law and economics literature than the incentive mechanism of the function discussed below. But it may be far for the most important purpose the contract serves in practice. So a person who makes a contract, naturally he should have the economic value also. Without the economic value, he could not do the contract at all. And that is then becomes the economic efficiency. So, well, making the contract, they will see in terms of the economics also, in terms of the economic efficiency, in terms of the benefit. As of course, Meyerson 2004 suggests the coordination games should be the best model through which to understand the legal institution generally. Of course, there are the different models are given over there, different methods are there, different permutations are given. With that, the coordination comes and the party will come to the equilibrium to go further implementation of the contract or the approval of the contract or the formation of the contract. Parties, are you hearing me? Now the time is 9:36. We started the 9 o'clock. Still some time is there. Okay, now let me continue it. So implementing the exchange over time. See, when you are on to implementation, either in the sale or the exchange, time factor and terms and conditions are a very important one. Your second reason for using the contract is to implement the exchange. First, they have to come to equilibrium. They have to make very much clear to that what they want to do and what they want to make it out. In 1.1.2, let us see that implementing the exchange, how it can be implemented, whether within the time or beyond the time. A second reason for, yes, still 5 minutes are there, okay, I will continue it. A second reason for the using the contract is to implement the exchange that depend upon the future events. For instance, consider an insurance contract that covers a loss that occur in the state 1 but not in the state 0. Under this contract, the insured pays a premium to the insurer in exchange for the casualty payment received in the state 1 but not in the state 0. See, either casualty may occur or may not occur, because prediction would be there, probability would be there, or based on that thing may happen or may not happen, and people will buy the insurance. Otherwise, if you don't buy the insurance, then I'm sure that you will be on the roads completely, and that to be only with underwear only, even not a dress, with underwear. What I'm saying means everything will be sold. Okay, now let us come to the point. In the standard model of the risk of allocation, goods are state contingent and commodities, for example, an apple in a state 0 is considered a different good than an apple in a state A1. Suppose the state 1 is having the ample, what I say, gardening, not gardening, harvesting of the apple, or seasonal apple trees are there, groves are there, orchards are there, gardens are there, and the fully covered with and with they don't eat the apples. Of course, everybody cannot eat the apples, whatever they grown over there. They will export to the other people where it is not grown or where the consumption is more because of the business. So here, different goods selling from one country to another country, one state to another state, and the treating goods as a state contingent commodity has the advantage of allowing the direct application of the standard analysis of the exchange. So suppose if I supply the, say about the apples and you supply the pineapples, it is not grown over here, or any other product which is their fruit which is not grown in another country, but has a disadvantage of abstracting from the real institutional issues. Then the question comes, when the exchange would be there, either in terms of the quality or quantity or weight, it depends upon are agreed by the parties. Of course, value of the cost of the product also in the exchange. So there would be a understanding between the parties are there, they will come to a point, then they can make such a thing. And it is when the parties become equilibrium and on the same plane and to continue the contract. In particular exchange that is usually beneficial as ex ante may not be mutually beneficial ex post. See, one ex ante is beneficial and the ex post will not be beneficial. It depends upon the situation. It depends upon the condition where the goods reached over there. In the insurance example, the insured will not wish to pay the premium or ex post if state 0 is realized. And the insurer will not wish to make the casualty payment ex post if the state is realized when is realized. So the exchange cannot therefore be implemented in spot market and requires some of the advance commitment would be there. Unless until you pay the premium, then the unexpected thing, untoward things which are going to damage or occur over there will not be covered up. Because it depends upon the premium payment only, the everything will be come into the picture. So the payment is very much important factor, premium. In the typical insurance context, the transaction is motivated by the insured risk aversions. But the need to contract across the different state is more general than it and is not related to the risk aversion. Of course, it depends upon it. If you want to make it our own effort, you can make it out. But a wise man will not do so. There is a saying also there. I don't know whether you read it or not. A wise man will learn the lessons from the other's mistakes. But an unwise man learn the lessons from his own mistakes. Participants, did you understand what I said? Can you repeat it? A wise man learn from the other's mistakes, but an unwise man will learn the lesson from his own mistakes. So, for instance, consider purely the speculative exchange between the risk natural parties. And here, what is the risk neutral parties? Risk is there, risk not is there. In which the trade is motivated by different
I spend a lot of time working on social media for my clients. I create a lot of video content